Hi, everybody. This is Lisa Schulteis with Your Event Marketplace, and I am blessed to be joined today by Andrew Apicello of PlanetConnect. Andrew, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, really a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I can't wait to hear more about what you all do, what Planet Connect is all about. It's a great name, by the way. Not sure who came up with it, but I love the name. I love, just that visual of connecting the planet. But tell me a little bit about the company, about what you guys do.
Yeah, of course. So we're focused entirely on the life science industry. So working with top five pharmaceutical companies, virtual and hybrid events, really focusing on elevating great science. And really, life science events are very different than other kinds of events. They're different because they involve poster halls. They're different because they involve people who are not salespeople and marketing people and people who want to get going, right? And because of that, we've built in a lot of different kind of features and built in a lot of different operations to kind of bring everyone together in a really unique way that they're used to. We kind of started off in a funny way. So we work at the old Bell Labs building, if you know that. It's in New Jersey, really famous. And there's a collaborative space there. So I've been working there for years, in and out of a bunch of different startups. I really enjoyed this space, working as an engineer. And my now boss, Rich Brandwine, he and I are always different, always talking about different things, always talking about high-end computing, things like that. And when COVID had hit, right in March, this is still like, hey, is this going to be a big deal or not? We don't know. I went over to him and I said, hey, you guys have been a physical event company for 20 plus years. But with all this, you guys are going to need a virtual platform. And he was like, oh, yes, let's do it. I've been wanting to do this for decades, right? So we fired it up. We coded a whole bunch of different a software platform to really support the existing clientele, and then built it out exactly to spec for your big pharma companies like Merck and Sanofi, and everyone was really happy. So we've been kind of going off and still running with this space since then.
That's great. Yeah. And, March of 2019 will be ingrained in the events industry forever, right? Like we all
Yes.
were sitting there going, okay, what next? I was at a live event and had to come home. So it's great that you guys were able to come up and I think the word's overused a little bit, but to be able to pivot, right? And to be able to see that ahead of time that, we may not know what's happening tomorrow, but we really need to plan for the future regardless. So I think that is great that you all did that. Now, you mentioned, I know obviously they do live events. You've been doing virtual for the last couple of years. Are you also doing a mix of hybrid as well?
Yeah, we do. We also support hybrid events. They're becoming more common. We're definitely seeing a lot of the leaders in this space work and really be enthusiastic, especially within the fall season, going for hybrid events. Some of them are a little bit more conservative, but a lot of them are going forward with something up into the 800s, into the low thousands. So there is planning to do that. When we support hybrid events, really it's a mixture of in person and virtual. Um, when it comes together, that's really kind of the secret sauce, right? Bringing the agenda together, having like a place for a resource for people to go to and see and visualize what's going to happen, a place for them to essentially click on different agenda items and create their own agenda, add it to their calendar. Those are tools that people have been asking for years, and now it's all within one setting, and that can translate from physical to virtual and vice versa. The same thing's true with exhibitor space and poster space. It's very much in the same spirit. And getting that all aligned is really what we try to bring to our hybrid events.
Perfect. Yeah. And I'm going to ask you about the posters because poster sessions, for anybody who doesn't have those incorporated into their event, they actually don't know how hard poster sessions are. You would think it's actually very easy, but they provide a challenge in the virtual and even the hybrid space. Obviously, live, they're a little bit easier. But how do you guys, is there something special that you do, or how do you handle the posters in kind of that virtual setting?
Great question. So I actually used to be a chemist, and I've given poster presentations at the American Chemical Society, and I've been there, done that. And so when I sat down to build this out, I actually called one of my really good friends from Cal Berkeley and one of my other real good friends from Scripps. And I brought them both together and we sat down and we said, okay, what if I could build you your dream poster session virtually, what would it look like? And we put together a lot of different kind of unique features, things like a recommended posters section where, oh, you're in there looking at, nuclear magnetic resonance with a beep, beep bop. And then there's a whole bunch of different other posters that are just like it because we looked at all the content from all the different other posters and said, hey, these are really similar ones. For the main content of the poster, you have, of course, an intro video. You have the PDF poster itself, and then we have a live now feature where a person can go in, and when they're live, it'll be noted within the poster hall generally, and then also you can go in and see them in a type of webcast just like this, and engage with the speaker between certain sessions that are a part of the agenda. So that's kind of our main piece of handling it. When it comes to the actual virtual platform, the trickiness comes to the operations going into getting those posters into the virtual platform in the first place. You're laughing because it's
Yes.
a lot, right? You have to do the internal marketing, the call for abstracts. You have to essentially coordinate all the people, the committee members, and everyone's going to be voting on it. You have to categorize them according to which themes the event is going to be going through, and they need to vote up and down. And we handle that process from the marketing. We're handling, with our scientists, talking to them, doing the marketing internally. We actually have a voting process where people can vote up and down on different categories of their posters. And then ultimately, when they decide which ones they want in the poster sessions, we've supported well over 400 posters within our virtual platform for one of the big week-long meetings at one of our
Nice.
big clients.
Nice. Yeah, my background's medical as well, and we've worked with some people with posters, and it is a challenge, for anybody in the events industry. We always say it with a smile on our face that exhibitors and speakers are where most of our work goes into, right? The kind of the hand holding and things like that, and posters is a whole other creature, and it's a similar hand holding. There's a lot of extra work with posters that people don't think about. And just, I think, that challenge, and you mentioned that you guys have kind of that video room that people can pop into, and, it allows the presenter to actually present, right? So they're not just looking at a PDF online, they're able to have that interaction and hear that presentation and ask questions and all of that. I think that integration is really, really useful. Now, I know you work with some of the big pharma companies. Are you guys primarily US based in your events? Are you global? Who are you working with?
Yeah, so kind of by the nature of working with those pharma companies, almost everything we're doing is global now, right? They love their local little kind of seminars they used to do. Now all of a sudden they can go and talk about analytical content with a global audience. And that, I think, is here to stay. As far as managing global teams, the support is really on our side. That's really where it comes down to, making sure there's always an engineer that's awake, right, for 24/7 for 2 or 3 weeks when some of these larger symposia are happening. That's a little tricky, just for sleep, right? I've definitely gotten that 5 o'clock call. I've definitely gotten that 4 o'clock call. Happens. That's what we do, though, right? And we love it. So yeah, we do global events. I think a lot of these pharma companies, they are in the larger life science space. They're all international, and they have international partners, right? They have people in France and Ukraine and Japan. Some of the top names are out of a lot of different places on the planet, and that's what it comes down to. You got to support everybody.
Perfect. So that kind of rolls into my next question a little bit, which really is, what makes your company, what makes PlanetConnect different than your competitors? What really makes you kind of stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, it's another great question. So a lot of it does come down to the posters and the scientists and really supporting them, going into even our AV specialist that we have in house, the way that he'll run the meetings, run the to run the different webinars, even things like that. Getting people to talk, scheduling making sure there's doped questions, right, that are in there for people to talk to. Every scientist knows they go to a nice poster presentation or a nice talk, and at the end there's no questions, right? Well, we know that, right? We work with this all the time. This is every meeting, right? So even the little details like that are done essentially really well exactly for the pharma space. When we zoom out a little bit, again, there's that abstract collection process that we handle all natively, all in-house, no partners. We basically do a lot of different flexible integrations, be it with Zoom or WebEx, whatever the company wants to use, because we don't want to be opinionated. We want scientists, when they're giving their presentations, to be completely comfortable, right? That's why we try to be so flexible. And then there's a lot of little things that we like to do. For instance, we built this like button out, and now that's a part of our system. We built out even a button that's really interesting called the group interest button. So you go to a poster session, and the idea is, and it's how it works in practice as well, was to have a button where if someone was interested in using the science developed in a different department within their local team, they could add this to their button. They could click a button, say, I'm interested in this for my group. And then we communicated this to all group leaders later on and said, hey, here are the people who thought this would be interesting to use within your team. So that's what we try to do. We try to essentially, these event managers internal to these pharma companies are really dedicated to elevate great science. We want to work with them really intimately to make sure that we can do exactly that and help them do exactly that.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got some great, data collection points for them. Information that not only you're able to gather for during the event, but information that they're able to use afterwards then as well with those interests. And I think that's really important for your clients.
Yeah, it really is. I think what people really like from the host space, right? They really like the essentially the breakdown of, hey, here are the different themes throughout the virtual environment. Here's which ones were the most popular. Here's by talk which ones got the most clicks, the most engagement, the most conversations about them, and the longest viewing time. Right? That's what the hosts really like. When it comes down to the exhibitors and the poster presenters, they really like the click by click tracking that we do in real time. So anytime someone clicks on your poster, or anytime for an exhibitor, someone's clicking on your exhibit, they are seeing that in real time. So as an exhibitor, I'm seeing that in real time. That someone clicked on my exhibit, you're seeing who they are, exactly what their email is. You can start a chat with them right from there, and it's going to break it down by click. So anytime that person clicked on your poster, clicked on your talk, clicked on your exhibit, you're going to see that all mapped out right there for you.
That's great, and that real-time feedback is really important for people. And I think it's great that you're providing them that information, because that gives them some. I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for, but we'll go with feedback. But that's giving them the feedback that they need in terms of how their poster is being received, and what people are finding of interest and things like that as well. So I think that's really great information for them. Yeah. So a little bit of a bonus question moving forward here. So as we're, continuing to go into 2022, what do you see as kind of, the trend going into 2022 and for events? And I'm not necessarily talking about like the latest bells and whistles and shiny object syndrome, but more of what's really, really important for us to consider as we're looking at events in 2022.
That's a really interesting question. So there's definitely going to be the transition from virtual to hybrid, and that's basically there to stay. I think that's pretty borne out in what people are seeing as far as the data goes, and as far as a lot of the thought leaders in the space are thinking about. I think that's pretty well established. But what I think is going to be driving a lot of the virtual event space and the hybrid event space is going to be M&A activity. There's over 80 companies that have brought in $10 million or more to develop their product and to do their marketing. And what I see a lot is people trying to differentiate themselves through their technical capabilities. Trying to say, hey, we're a YouTube, Twitter, Twitch platform. It's like, oh no, we're a a Discord, YouTube, Twitch. It's like they're trying to mix and match these different feature sets in a way that's maybe a little bit different. But the thing about engaging online is that there's only a finite number of ways to do it, right? And they're all explored, and none of them are defensible. So I don't see it working that way. I think what's effective and what we're trying to explore is no, not every event is the same. Not every virtual event is the same. They're very different. They have unique needs. And so the cutting line is not this feature or that feature or this YouTube standoff or that Twitch, alternative. It's this is built just for this space. This platform is built just for these kinds of clients that have these extremely unique needs. And that niche, I think we're going to start seeing more of the lines in the market drawn that way.
I think that's an interesting point, and I think you're correct. It really is, people are kind of always looking for the package deal, right? Like, I have this event coming, you probably have this flat rate package deal to give me. And it's not true, because every event is different, right? Every
Right.
event is unique. Whether we're talking platforms, whether we're talking experiences, um, audience is a huge one, right? Whether you're talking corporate or you're talking association, for example. A lot of corporations have to use Teams, for example. They can't use Zoom or YouTube or another platform because of security features, and not that those platforms are bad. It's just their corporate IT department has decided this. So there's all these different things that I think you guys are working with. Any event planner, any event platform is working with. That's not what the focus is, but that's what the first focus is that people go to, right? But it's not really where they need to be focusing. So I think that's a great point on your part. Perfect. Anything else? We've got just a couple of minutes here, but is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you think is just really important that maybe people are addressing, or, that really just, is really important to you or your company in terms of events that just, you want to share with people?
That's kind of interesinteresting.
Yeah, that's kind of the second
Uh,
bonus
That's a
question I
bonus.
added in there, right? I know it's
That's a
the bonus
double bonus question.
question, like
Yeah.
double Jeopardy or something.
Yeah. Well,
But
I've been thinking a lot about Meta, actually. This is just maybe not particular to my company, but particular to the space, right? What's going on with Meta, and what are people thinking about? Are we transitioning from 2D to 3D? Are we transitioning from just a regular web browser to um, uh, like virtual reality or things like that? If you were to consider it, I think the time horizon is really the thing to consider, right? How fast is that going to happen? Because if you look at like my nephew's 8 years old, he plays Roblox. All his friends play Roblox. You talk to teachers and they say, "Oh, if you're not on Roblox, then you're not even, you don't even exist," right? So our concept that we have um, as adults of what is normal, that's all coming. Like the whole metaverse is coming, right? And I think it's not every day that you see one of the most valuable companies on the planet change its name. That you should pay
yeah,
attention to that. You should be thinking about that. And I think the virtual event space, because of its position to the kind of metaverse, and then even more generally beyond just the single implementation of that Facebook is exploring, um, we should think about that. We should have real thought about that. And it hasn't really come together for me yet. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. Is that something that we should pursue to build ourselves? Is this something that, uh, meaning a metaverse type, like a PlanetConnect verse? Actually, we're pretty well positioned to name that, right?
absolutely.
Um, yeah. So we could try something out like that. Or is this like engagement and implementation where we're locking in to something like a certain physical space or virtual physical space that's permanent within the metaverse? Is Apple going to beat out Facebook? Is going to beat out? I'm sure Google's going to get in there. I'm waiting for the press release. Um, I would like to do some more thinking about that. I think the event space should get into it a little bit more, and I think that's something we really should keep our eyes on in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting to see if you think about, going back to March of 2019, those first 3 months, right? How much technology change so quickly, right? So those 5-year plans that all of these tech companies had for virtual events got done in 3 months, right? It's
Right.
amazing in terms of what really happened. And now I think we really do need to look forward, and we need to take a breath and say, okay, great, this is where we are now. But you're right, we need to look forward because things are constantly evolving in the tech space, but that's affecting the event space too. And the event space is constantly evolving. The last 2 years has taught us that. And so really evaluating that, and yes, you guys need to go trademark PlanetConnect first real quick. But really evaluating that and seeing where that's going to go, and where that community, because everything's about community now, whether we're in person or virtual, how the community is going to be affected in everything that we do moving forward. And I think that's definitely something that we have to plan for and to look forward to.
Yeah, I think that's a salient point there, Lisa.
So perfect. Well, Andrew, thank you again for coming on today. It has been an absolute pleasure having this chat with you. I'm so glad to learn more about your company, what you do. I can't wait to see where you guys take this, and what's next for all of you. But I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you. And this was really wonderful.
Perfect. All right. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll talk soon, and we'll see you everybody else on the next video. Thanks, everybody.